If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. If you're a really clever one and you know what it is to see, then you can make friends with a special one, a friend of you and me. His name is Mr. Babadook, and this is his book. A rumbling sound, then 3 sharp knocks. Ba-ba-ba-dook, dook, dook.
Hey there, widows, insomniacs, screaming children, and storybook monsters.
Continuing our Women in Horror Month series today, we are talking about the 2014 film The Babadook.
Do you say Babadook? I say Babadook.
I say both. I don't know.
Which one is right?
Because in the movie, it's
He says
Babadook.
Babadook.
Dook. Yeah.
No, we just said You said Dook, I said Duke.
I think it's Dook.
I guess.
I didn't even realize we said it differently.
Yeah,
Babadook. Duck?
Babadook? Babadook.
Babadook.
Anyways, that's the movie we're talking about. This movie was both written and directed by Jennifer Kent.
Trigger warnings for this movie include animal death / cruelty. There's also some gore and visuals of children dying, I guess would be the best way to put it.
And I would also say add, also child abuse to some extent.
Yeah, because there's verbal child abuse.
Yeah. A brief synopsis of the movie. A single mother plagued by the violent death of her husband battles with her son's fear of a monster lurking in the house, but soon discovers a sinister presence all around her.
Taglines for this movie include, if it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. So it is
It's
Duck.
gotta be Duck.
Because it rhymes with look. Babadook.
Babadook.
Book Duck.
Babadook. Duck. Duck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Saying it with the right context clears it up. The movie starts and we meet Amelia, and she's in the middle of this nightmare where we see glass and crashing, and it's this really cool scene where she actually drifts down and falls into her bed. And then we meet her son Sam, who's waking her up because he is having nightmares about a monster.
And it's a common theme in this movie where she is forced to check under the bed, in the closets, pretty much anywhere.
As he clings to her.
Yeah, literally clings to her.
Yeah. And it shows them at night, he sleeps with his hands around her neck, just so suffocating to her because he's afraid of this monster.
Or with literal weapons.
Yeah, that too.
There's an extra step of sadness because it's not she's a widow, but her husband literally died on their way to the hospital when she was in labor.
Yeah.
Imagine getting in a car accident so bad your husband dies.
And then you have a baby the same day.
And you're in labor.
Yeah. Oof. Sam, like we said, kind of makes all of these weapons that are very impressive for a 6-year-old or however old he's supposed to be.
Like 8 or 9? Even I couldn't make a crossbow or a catapult.
Yeah. But one day he takes a weapon to school and Amelia has to leave work and go and pick him up.
Obviously, a kid like this is not going to sleep well, so Amelia frequently reads to him and she lets Sam pick a book from the shelf.
This time, though, a book shows up on the shelf that neither of them have seen before, and she kind of is puzzled by it, but is who knows? Did he bring this home from school? Did his aunt give this to him and I didn't know about it? So she decides to read it, and it terrifies him.
If I found a book on our shelf that I didn't recognize or know what it was, I'd burn that shit.
But you would just assume it was me.
I would ask you about it. I know our books.
I do too, but...
Especially if it was... So yeah, the title of the book is Mr.
Duck. Babadook.
I'm going to have to do it every time.
Look, Duck.
Book.
Duck.
It rhymes with book. The storybook is called Mr. Babadook.
But is it Baba or Baba?
We can't do this. We can't do this. We'll just let it be wrong.
All right, go ahead.
Do you say Baba or Baba?
You just said Baba. I say Baba.
Babadook.
Babadook.
Babadook. There we go.
I just heard you say it differently.
And one day I hope to own one of the actual books.
They're expensive.
They are very expensive, but maybe one day. But anyways, yeah, as she reads the book, it gets more and more like angry and violent and aggressive. And, Samuel's terrified. The book portrays the tall, pale-faced humanoid with his top hat and talon fingers. He actually looks kind of scary.
Yeah, it is creepy.
I think for me it's the fingers.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fingers for me. But even Amelia herself is disturbed by the book, and she closes it and doesn't even finish it.
Yeah, so as soon as she shuts the book, it cuts to Sam wailing and crying, and he's terrified of this, and this goes on for like days, so that he can't sleep because of the Babadook.
Who he believes is real.
Mm-hmm. After they read the book, strange things start to happen, and like doors are opened, weird noises, and Amelia makes dinner one night, and she finds glass in her soup, and she like cuts her mouth when she takes a bite. And in that moment, it's like, I think she thinks that Sam did it, but
definitely,
like, he's a small child and he's not trying to hurt her, but like, she just doesn't know what to do with him because he's so neurotic.
And every time she blames Sam, he just screams, "It's the Babadook."
Mm-hmm.
Did I say it right?
I think so.
Thank God. Eventually, Amelia cannot take it anymore and rips up the book and throws it away.
Because of, like, the date significance of her husband's death and Sam's birth happening all at once, she doesn't celebrate his birthday on the same day, and instead he shares a party with his cousin. But this year, his cousin and his aunt are, like, unhappy with how he's been acting, and so they don't want to share the party. So poor Sam, you feel so bad for this kid because he just needs some stability and some help. Has to go to the party, but this time it's not their shared birthday, so he's obviously in not a great mood, and he doesn't want to play with the kids. It's like a princess party. He's like the only boy there. Poor Sam.
Yeah, and like throughout the movie, like nobody's even allowed to mention his dad, or his mom will freak out. It's
at this party that he's in the tree house, like hiding out, like just not wanting to be a part of what's going on. And his cousin Ruby is like bullying him and saying, "You don't have a dad because nobody wants you." And just like,
she is actually bullying him.
Yeah.
Like, she's being very mean.
She's a shit.
She's a little shit.
But in like the way kids do, he shoves her, but she falls out of the tree house and lands right on her face.
You're not even good enough to have a dad. Everyone else has one, you don't. I do have a dad. Your dad died so he didn't have to be with you. That's not true. And your mom doesn't want you. No one wants you.
What did you do?
She said I didn't have a dad. She kept saying it.
While this is happening, Amelia and her sister Claire are kind of having an argument, and Claire admits that she cannot stand to be around Sam.
Which also, what a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, kids are annoying and they suck a lot of the times, but like, you don't ever tell someone that you don't want to see them because you can't stand their kid. Like,
also, there's a difference between, like, you know, some kids are just like loud and annoying, so you don't want to see them. But he clearly has like mental issues.
Yeah, something going on.
Something is going on.
He's really like starved for like attention and just lashing out.
That's not the kind of kid you just say, "I don't ever want to see him, he sucks."
Right.
It's like, maybe help him out.
On the drive home from the party, Sam is like inconsolable. He's screaming. He's kicking the back of the seats.
Is this where that meme is from? I think it is.
Yes.
Why can't you be normal?
Yes.
I knew the meme before the movie.
Yeah, you did say that when we watched it too. You were like, "This is the meme.
This is the meme." Yeah, I had actually not seen this movie before we decided to do an episode.
But it's on this drive home that he says that he sees the Babadook again, and he like goes into like a seizure, and he's like having a hard time breathing, and Amelia has to pull over and like get him out of the car and beg strangers to call 911.
And she like begs the doctor.
This scene's so sad to me too,
Yeah.
because the doctor like I think is suspicious of her like intentions for wanting medication. for him, but she looks so fucking sad. She's like, I have not slept in weeks because he is so obsessed with this monster thing. Like, I just need him to sleep. And he like kind of begrudgingly writes her a prescription.
And she gives Sam one of the pills, and he actually does sleep the whole night. And she sleeps the whole night. And she wakes up like, I want to say like renewed.
Yeah.
And she's like happy for a moment. But discovers something not so great.
Yeah, she opens the front door and the Babadook book is sitting on the step and it's all kind of like taped together. So somebody had taken the pieces and put it back together, but this time it has new pages too.
Yeah, it has new pages that like taunt her and saying like the Babadook will only become stronger.
And this is like the creepy pop-up where when she opens it, it shows her wringing the dog's neck. And then the next one is a pop-up of her stabbing Sam.
And then herself, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that graphic is so good. It's so creepy.
And then doesn't she try to burn the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
she throws it in a trash can and dumps it.
Or like a grill or something.
Yeah. And then, and then after that she calls the police who are just like...
No, she gets a phone call and she hears it's the noises and then she goes to the police station.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because she gets that phone call where it's like whatever noise it makes. Or maybe it's saying Babadook.
Yeah, it's like the Babadook.
Yeah, insert noise here. And she goes to the police, and as soon as she's like saying out loud what's happening, she realizes she sounds insane and kind of leaves.
And sees the suit. She sees the Babadook's suit hanging in the police station.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. I think from here on out, she really starts to kind of like go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And she's really a mess, and she's like sleeping all day. Sam at this point is not even going to school.
He got expelled.
Yeah, because of the weapons. So she's not going to work. She's a mess.
And this is when she gets to be like more aggressive with Sam, and she's like screaming at him and still giving him those pills.
Yeah. And
even when he says he doesn't want them, which is kind of messed up. It's very sad.
Because he's like, they make me tired and hurt my stomach. Ugh. The first time I watched this movie, I remember hating the kid, and then this time I was like so sympathetic to him. But one of the scarier scenes to me, they're sitting watching TV, and Sam is kind of like dosed from the pills, and she looks at the TV, and then she looks over at Sam, and he's been brutally murdered, and she just has like a flash that she has done it, and she stands up and is like screaming, and then she looks, and he's just sleeping. But oh my god, when we watched this, I was like, oh no. Like my stomach really dropped. I like forgot about that. Yeah. Because it comes across so quickly. And it's like at that point in the movie, there hasn't been much violence or gore or anything like real. It's all been like within the realm of the book. So that's like the first time you see something actually happen.
And then it's like right after this when she sees her husband, Oscar, I think.
Oscar.
Like a vision of him, and he's saying like, bring me the boy,
right,
and I can come back or something like that.
Yes.
Which is even more horrific.
I think it's like within these scenes too where she is watching TV and she sees that like news broadcast about like a boy being murdered, and then she sees herself in the window. That part is also very scary. I think that's a part of this too. After she sees this like Oscar hallucination,
apparition.
Yeah, she realizes that it's not him, and when she tries to escape, the Babadook ends up getting inside of her.
Yeah, it possesses her. And the saddest moment of the entire movie, the poor dog.
R.I.P. Bugsy.
And then she turns her murderous rampage onto Sam.
And this is that part where she tells Sam that she's like, I'm going to take you to meet your dad. It's beautiful there. And even this little kid realizes, like, this is terrifying.
Yeah,
and
but go Sam.
Yeah, and he stabs her.
Well, because he first hits her with his, like, catapult thingy.
Right.
He shoots his crossbow, but he misses. And then he, like, hits her with a clothesline, knocks her down, and stabs her, like, in the leg.
Yeah.
I think. It's a whole very stressful scene. And then he knocks her out.
Right. What did you say? Did he Gulliver's Travels her?
Yeah, did he just Gulliver Travels her?
He ties her up in the basement.
Because, he's so tiny, and then he ties her up just like the same way.
It's in this basement scene, Sam is like begging her to come back, saying that he would always protect her if she would protect him. And she gets kind of loose from her like rope tying situation. She tries to strangle him, but even while she's strangling him, he says he loves her and is like caressing her face, and she lets go.
Yeah, and then she throws up.
All that black stuff.
Yeah, so gross.
Yeah.
Ugh, why is it always like inky?
It always is when it's evil.
It's like they're a scared squid.
Yeah.
And then right after that, Sam reminds her, he's like, yeah, you can't get rid of the Babadook.
Right, and then he gets dragged up the stairs.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
It scared me. Not scared, but it gave me like shivers.
Yeah. Amelia ends up getting Sam back from the Babadook. And at this point, she's like, she has escaped this possession. She's full of rage. And she screams at it. And it forces her to relive the moment that Oscar died and watch his death. Kind of face it, essentially.
But this time, she's not afraid. Because she's trying to protect Sam.
Right.
So she's really like pissed. She's furious. And just ends up screaming at it.
It's almost like the stages of grief, you know? Denial and then anger. Like she's just in denial for the whole 5 years that Sam was alive.
And then the beast, she makes him run into the basement and then she locks the door on it.
So then time flashes forward a little bit and Amelia seems so much better. She's definitely recovered. Sam seems happier and they're planning for his little birthday gathering and he's the cutest little magician.
Yeah.
He's getting his stuff ready. And the neighbor who we haven't mentioned is there and it's very sweet.
She's a very sweet neighbor. And at the moment they are collecting earthworms into a little bowl.
We see Amelia tell Sam, to stay out here till I come back, no matter what, don't come inside. And she goes in with the bowl of worms and goes into the basement and leaves it for the Babadook, who is still down there. And it kind of tries to attack her, but she's able to, soothe it. And she's like, it's okay, it's okay. And then it kind of retreats and takes the bowl.
And starts eating,
the worms.
Frantically eating earthworms. And then she goes back to the yard, and it was almost like... He's not that bad today.
Yeah, right.
Or something. I can't remember.
He was calm today or something like that. Today. Or quiet, something along those lines.
Which I thought was a very good ending. Mm-hmm. But we'll get more into that.
Yeah.
When asked where the idea for the Babadook came from, director Jennifer Kent said, I have a friend who's a single mother whose son was traumatized by this monster figure that he thought he saw everywhere in the house. So I thought, what if this thing was real? On some level. So I made Monster, the 2005 short film, about that idea. But I couldn't leave it alone. I kept coming back to it, and that led to the Babadook.
We actually watched the short today, too, and it's really good. It's the same premise.
It's a
different monster.
Yeah.
A little bit scarier. It's got, metal teeth.
Yeah. I wouldn't say scarier. It's very similar, but it still has the fingers.
But in this one, you see the monster right away. Whereas, the Babadook, it's actually, it's more symbolic and it's in the shadows. This, you actually see the monster.
Yeah, and it's because it's a short. It's only, it's less than 10 minutes.
Right.
But very good. You can watch it on YouTube.
Yep,
right?
it's
that's
on
where
YouTube.
I watched it.
And she called it Baby Babadook.
Yeah, that's what she refers to the movie as. The writing of the script began around 2009, and Kent has stated that she sought to tell a story about facing up to the darkness within ourselves, the fear of going mad, and an exploration of parenting from a real perspective. In regard to parenting, Kent further explained in October 2014, now I'm not saying we all want to go and kill our kids, but a lot of women struggle, and it is a very taboo subject. To say that motherhood is anything but a perfect experience for women. In terms of the characters, Kent said that it was important that both characters are loving and lovable so that we, the audience, really feel for them. Kent wanted to portray human relationships in a positive light. In total, Kent completed 5 drafts of the script.
Obviously, in this movie, there's a lot of symbolism around the Babadook. And like I said earlier, I talked about the stages of grief, how it seems like she is... oh, man, I forgot. What's the first one now?
Monster?
No, the first, first stage of grief. I just said it. Now I'm blanking. Denial. That she's kind of in denial, and that's why she has a meltdown if anyone mentions her husband's death. And then when she kind of progresses through that next stage of grief into anger, she's able to kind of get her life back and recover from this like illness that she was suffering.
Because of all the symbolism, a lot of people have written about it, just because this movie has some deep meaning. So Tim Tiemann of the Daily Beast wrote that this movie contends that grief is the real monster in the Babadook. I'll get it.
It's okay.
The film is about the aftermath of death, how its remnants destroy long after the dead body has been buried or burned. Tiemann writes that he was gripped by the metaphorical imperative of Kent's film, with the Babadook monster representing the shape of grief, all-enveloping, shape-shifting, black. Tiemann states that the film's ending underscored the thrum of grief and loss at the movie's heart, and concludes that it informs the audience that grief has its place, and the best that humans can do is marshal it.
I love that that's how they ended it, too.
Yes.
And from, like, a horror movie perspective, the kid keeps saying, like, you can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. But then in reality, it's like, you can't get rid of that pain that you have, and you just have to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
You feed it worms.
Don't
you wish it was that easy? You could just,
it's not about feeding it worms.
I'm just kidding. My gosh. But don't you wish that you could take care of a trauma that you have just by eating worms, and then it would be done?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But we all have those good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like exactly how she says, like, he was quiet today.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
another writer, film critic, and I'm going to say this wrong and I apologize in advance, Whale Kyrie?
I would have said Whale Carey.
No. Whale. It's Waelkhairy. He wrote, "The Babadook taps into something real, a real human fear." He continued to say, "The malevolent Babadook is basically a physicalized form of the mother's trauma. I believe the Babadook embodies the destructive power of grief. Throughout the film, we see the mother insist nobody bring up her husband's name. She basically lives in denial. Amelia has repressed grief for years, refusing to surrender to it." He concluded that the film is based on something real and feels unusually beautiful and even therapeutic. And I like that he said that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It feels relatable.
Mm.
That's the best way I can think to put it.
Yeah, and it's like this style of horror movie, it wouldn't have been satisfying enough if they just got rid of it. It needed to be there still, because by the end of the movie, you understand what it is to her and what it is in the movie. And like, if it was just like, yep, we stabbed it with Sam's crossbow and it's gone, it would have been so disappointing.
Mm-hmm. According to writer and director Jennifer Kent, The Babadook was designed based on stills from the lost film London After Midnight, starring Lon Chaney.
Which I guess, too, that was something that they show on the TV.
Yes. When,
during those scenes where Amelia is, like, full of insomnia and just staring at the TV at night, that's one of the weird black and white things that plays. We didn't talk about that, but I love that, how it shows the Babadook within the TV shows.
Yeah.
We should find a way to watch this.
Yeah, we'll also post a picture of what he looks like in the movie. Because it is actually pretty scary.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, in the movie, it, like, changes from him to the Babadook's face.
Yeah.
Jennifer Kent also holds the rights to the film, and when asked about a sequel, she said, quote, "I will never allow any sequel to be made because it's not that kind of film. I don't care how much I'm offered, it's just not going to happen."
Thank God.
Yeah.
Finally a director.
Yep.
And creator who will stand up for her creation.
Right. It's so good. What would the sequel be? Like, Sam is an adult? Like,
there's nothing that would be satisfying.
It would not be good.
Because then again, it comes up as the whole, you can't shoot it with a crossbow and kill it.
Mm-hmm.
It's with you forever. So, I mean, a sequel would have to be like, Sam's an adult and it's back.
Yeah.
Okay, but then it has to end the same.
Right.
With him putting it back in the basement.
No, thank you.
No, we don't need it.
So props to her for holding strong on that. That's important. And I think, too, because of, like, we've watched so many, like, James Wan stuff lately. It's like, just say no. I know you're fucking rich, but just say no. We don't need 7 of these movies. Like,
yeah, but see, it's hard because So say Final Destination, New Line Studios owns part of it, and so because James Wan is the director, he didn't write it, he didn't create it, so it's kind of just not only his say, which makes it so difficult. But that's why it's great that she's the writer and director. And
the interesting thing with her too was she like got money for this movie, but not enough, so it was from Kickstarter.
Yeah, she did Kickstarter,
like $30,000 to complete the movie. So I think that that's also why she has 100% ownership, is because she didn't really have to sell it to someone. Of course, she did. She had to get money to make the movie, but not in the way like Final Destination was made, where somebody with a script trying to get someone to buy it.
Jennifer Kent is actually more of an actress than a director. She is more known for her acting skills. Attended drama school with Essie Davis, who was Amelia, which is just funny. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's actually like Wes Anderson went to school with the Wilsons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's why Owen Wilson and his brother are in all of his movies, is because they went to school.
What's the mole guy's name?
The mole guy?
The guy with the mole. Coconut Records. Jason Schwartzman. I was going to get there. I'm like, he's in all those movies too.
I do love Jason Schwartzman.
This movie had a campaign where you could buy a copy of the pop-up book for $80, and the first 2,000 copies were numbered and signed by Jennifer Kent. It contained pop-up pictures as well as additional pages not seen in the movie. And roughly 9,500 books were sold, and they go for a few $100s on eBay
like
now.
$700.
Yeah, we would love to have one. We looked it up. Like, somebody must have made a physical copy of this. We checked Etsy first. There was nothing. And then realized that, they actually did make it.
They actually made them. Man, 2014. Okay, but 2014 me could not have swung $80 for a book.
Yeah.
2014 me was a broke college student, very broke. Making $725.
Right.
Working retail.
Maybe we'll
part-time.
be able to get the $700 one someday. Alexander Yuhas was the artist who created the Babadook pop-up book, and this is a quote from him as well.
Babadook book.
The Babadook book. I had to keep the simple, graphic aesthetic of a children's book while subverting the images with the unsettling evil presence of the monster lurking beneath its pages. It had to look handmade, delicately crafted, but not unskilled. I began the book in Sydney and finished up at the Adelaide studio in South Australia, and the building, which to everyone's amusement, is a former insane asylum.
Oh, that's such a nice...
Which I love that.
Cherry on top.
Right.
I love that.
But I really loved thinking about the creative process of making this book, because it does have to look like some creepy person could have made it and left it for you. It also has to look like it's not so scary that you wouldn't read it to your kid if you happen to come across it. It's just very interesting. And he's also known for the stop motion Netflix film The Little Prince, which I have not seen, but I know it was cool. And one of my favorite shows, he did the opening sequence for United States of Terror.
Very good show.
Very good show.
There were some scenes where Samuel, played by Noah Wiseman, was not on set. For example, Jennifer Kent explained that during the reverse shots where Amelia was abusing Sam verbally, we had Essie yell at an adult stand-in on his knees. I didn't want to destroy a childhood to make this film. That wouldn't be fair.
I loved that idea. So it's just some guy on his knees that she's yelling at. Because, that could, regardless of the kid knowing that it's not real, to get yelled at like that, even for a movie, no, that's too much.
They also did the classic, give him an edited version of the script and cut out the, more adult scenes.
Something else that I read about Noah Wiseman as well was that they initially wanted to cast the kid to be an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, but all of the kids that came in and read were too smart for the script. They couldn't get caught up in the whimsy of thinking that this monster was real, which is why they went with him, and he was 6 at the time.
Pretty much all effects were low-tech and done in camera. Once the Babadook gets going, visual scares are simply accomplished by seeing his shadow, or a hint of his cloak or hat, or those fingers. It's the fingers that get the fingies get me. His Radu fingies. In one scene, the mother gets an actual call from the Babadook, and his voice alone is nightmare-inducing. When every patch of darkness or every shadow could possibly hide this unspeakable evil, then the fear of seeing the Babadook is actually more suspenseful than actually seeing him. No CGI is required.
Yeah, because there's very little effects in this movie, and they all were practical. Mm-hmm. There's no CGI at all.
This film had some interesting sound design to it. For example, a dragon call from Warcraft 2 was used. In other scenes,
Warcraft 2 Beyond the Dark Portal. Let's get the title right.
In other scenes, there were sound effects from UFO Enemy Unknown, Mortal Kombat 3, and Resident Evil.
I mean, it makes sense. There's some scary noises in video games.
Yeah, actually, like, in my head, I thought to look it up after, because I thought the sound design was unique. It was, I don't want to say weird, it was just, I guess it was unsettling.
Right, it wasn't just like what you're used to.
Yeah, it's not what you're used to.
As far as the effects all being practical, I did watch a little YouTube video, so I thought this was funny to mention that the scene where Sam stabs his mom's leg was actually like a lamb chop. And I watched a video where they like stapled the dress to it and put like a wood block underneath it so it wouldn't jiggle too much to make the right like amount of motion from being stabbed. But yeah, Sam did not do the stabbing. That was someone else.
Yeah, because all you see is the hand stabbing.
And you don't even see it like connected to her body.
No.
It's just like completely separate. So it was just some like stunt guy, but some guy on set.
Some guy on set.
Did it.
Who probably like shaved his hand.
Yeah.
But because that shot is literally a second. Or maybe
that's one of the
less.
only like gory things that really happened. So
you can't talk about this movie without its interesting history after the fact.
I love this so much. The internet is great sometimes.
The internet is great. In 2016, Netflix had a bit of oopsie daisies, and they originally posted it as a LGBT movie.
Right, and I remember like seeing weird things being in the wrong category on Netflix, but someone took a picture of this and posted it on Tumblr, and it went viral that the Babadook was an LGBT film. And so, of course, the Babadook must be openly gay.
And it has not stopped.
No.
You could see images of like LGBT protests and gatherings, and people are just like holding up the signs of the
with
Babadook.
Him on it.
Or like him in his all black attire, but wearing like big pink sunglasses or on a rainbow.
It is amazing.
It's amazing. It's just very strange, but people are just rolling with it.
Yeah, and then in 2017, it was actually displayed as a symbol at that year's Pride Month.
Yeah, and there's even a LGBT Pride edition of the Blu-ray. It's like,
I love gay Babadook.
Love gay Babadook. But the Blu-ray was allowed to happen because Jennifer Kent said she loves the meme. She went on to say that, I think it's crazy, and the meme just kept him alive. I thought, you bastard. He doesn't want to die, so he's finding ways to become relevant.
I love that.
I love it too.
Just accept it.
Just accept it.
Accept that your scary monster that you made that was so amazing and so like full of depth just became a gay Babadook icon. There's nothing you could do about it.
We'll post a picture on our Instagram.
There's only one death in this movie, and it's poor little Bugsy. R.I.P.
I appreciate, though, that none of the main characters died, or like the neighbor didn't die. I think it's important for this movie that none of the like people suffering from the haunting in the Babadook died. But it's always sad when a dog does die.
So watching this movie this time, it was so much scarier than I remember. I remember liking it when I saw it for the first time, but this time it made me jump, and like I said, I felt completely different. Like, this is my second or third time seeing it, about the characters, like feeling way more sympathetic towards Sam. But it's really great. It's definitely unique. There's not another one out there like this right now.
I have no idea why it took me so long to watch this. I've known about it since it came out, and it's just one of those movies that it just like got pushed back, and then here we are in 2021, and I had never seen it.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, actually, it was Jennifer Kent, a female writer and director. Mm-hmm. She created this, so it's time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Just the meanings of the movie are what make it so strong, and it's so scary, and nobody gets killed. It's just terrifying.
Yeah.
It's horror, but real.
Mm-hmm. And you can rent this one on Amazon or Hulu. It was on Netflix forever, like we talked about, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It's like $2.
For our next episode, we are going to continue highlighting Black creators, and we're talking about Jordan Peele's 2017 film, Get Out.
Which you historically don't like this movie, so we will see. I have only seen it like twice, but I enjoyed it. So
I've only seen this once, but I'm excited for a revisit. And it's not that I don't like the whole movie. It's just the end.
Yeah.
It's the end.
Well, we'll get into that.
Furious.
Might be a full of rage episode.
No, because the film does a lot of things very well that I can appreciate. There's just certain elements that I am not a fan of. And hey, just because people think the film is entirely amazing, you don't always have to agree with everybody. Mm-hmm. But I can appreciate the film nonetheless. So it'll be fun to talk about. Yeah. We've never really done a movie where we kind of like disagree. So it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it since probably 2017, so. Yep.